The progress we have made to date is clear and it is substantial. But, Presiding Officer, it has only been possible because of the efforts and enormous sacrifices that people right across Scotland have made, and I am deeply grateful to each and every one for all of that. Taking account of that progress and of the other evidence that we are required to assess, I am therefore very pleased today to confirm that the Scottish Government has concluded that we can now move into the next phase of our exit from lockdown. The prize for going a bit more carefully now is a recovery that is much more sustainable and one that will, I hope, allow more normality to be restored to our everyday lives. Now, that will be important in every aspect of life, but it will be particularly vital for children getting back to normal full-time schooling as quickly as possible. Because of this, we have decided that during phase 2, we will continue to ask people as far as possible to stay within or close to their local area. Our ambition is to be in a position to lift this restriction in phase 3 and in good time for the proposed resumption of tourism from the 15th of July. But at this stage, for leisure and recreation purposes, we are asking people not to travel more than around 5 miles or so from their home, though let me stress that does not apply to meeting family and friends. And of course, home working should still be the norm wherever that is possible. Change which will take effect immediately from today is in our guidance for people who are shielding. Those who are most at risk from COVID-19 and who have been therefore advised up until now to stay inside completely. I indicated last week my hope that from today, anyone who is shielding, unless you live in a nursing home or a residential care home, would be able to go outdoors for exercise, for example, for a walk, wheel or cycle. And I am very pleased to confirm this change today. So if you have been shielding and you plan to take some outdoors exercise today, you can go ahead. Although, of course, you're also very welcome to continue to listen to my remarks first. Tomorrow, our advice will be that shielding people can also take part in non-contact outdoor activities, such as golf, for example. In addition, the advice from tomorrow will be that people who are shielding can meet outdoors with people from one other household, but in groups of no more than 8. However, if you are shielding, you should continue to be extremely cautious, and I want to stress this point. That means staying at least 2 metres away from other people at all times, even if you live with the people that you're outside with. Do not go inside someone else's house or allow someone from another household to go inside yours, even to use a toilet. And when you do go outside, try to choose times and areas that are more quiet. And please wash your hands thoroughly as soon as you get back home. Tomorrow, people from one household can meet outdoors with people from up to 2 other households. You can meet these 2 households together or separately, and it doesn't always have to be the same households, but it should be no more than 2 at a time and no more than 2 in a single day. And we are still advising no more than 8 in any group. We will also change the guidance so that you can, if necessary, go indoors to use a toilet if you are meeting in the garden of another household. And I hope that these changes will make family meetings a little bit more practical. Please, however, though, remember that meetings must still be outdoors at this stage. When we consider what changes to make, we are always mindful of the wider harms that have come from the restrictions in place to tackle COVID. One of those harms is loneliness and isolation, particularly for older people living alone and for lone parents. So from tomorrow, we will change advice to allow anyone who lives on their own or who lives only with children under 18 to form an extended household group with one other household. Within an extended household group, people will be able to meet indoors without physical distancing and stay overnight, though only, of course, if they wish to do so. But they must continue to see any other households outdoors only and stay more than 2 metres apart from them. No member of such an extended household group should form a similar arrangement with any other household, and an extended household must not include someone who is shielding. Also, if one member of an extended group gets the virus, all of the group will have to isolate, whether or not they are living in the same property. Dentists will be able to reopen from Monday, initially for urgent care. Professional sport can resume, although since strict public health restrictions remain in place, this will only be behind closed doors. And places of worship will reopen, but for individual prayer only, not communal worship. I know that during this crisis, many will have drawn real strength and comfort from their faith. But I also know that people of all faiths are missing the ability to gather together. I want to acknowledge that and also thank the priests, ministers, rabbis, imams and many others who've worked so hard to keep in touch with faith groups. Retail premises of all sizes can reopen, but only if they have outdoor entrances and exits. I'm afraid that for the time being, indoor shopping centres will remain closed except for access to essential shops such as supermarkets and pharmacies. However, in 11 days' time, from Monday the 29th of June, some further phase 2 changes will take effect. From then, some indoor workplaces that have so far opted to remain closed in line with guidance, such as factories, labs and warehouses, can start to reopen, but subject to strict physical distancing, hygiene and health and safety guidance. Non-essential offices and call centres should remain closed at this stage. Businesses able to reopen should use the period between now and 29th June to ensure that all physical distancing and safety measures are in place, and to contact their staff to put in place staggered work times, agree flexible working where possible for those with childcare issues, and ensure that staff have a safe means of getting to work. From 29th of June, outdoor markets will also be able to reopen, as will outdoor playgrounds and outdoor sports centres. Outdoor businesses such as zoos and garden attractions can also reopen from that date, although initially, until we can hopefully lift this restriction for phase 3, people should not travel more than around 5 miles to visit them. Where these places are ticketed, tickets should be bought in advance. Restrictions on moving house will also be lifted on the 29th of June. In addition, registration offices will reopen, but only for essential business, and marriages and civil partnerships will be permitted, but only outdoors at this stage and with limited numbers. And of course, all of us as customers have a role to play. When shops do reopen, I ask everyone to exercise patience, stick to the measures that are, after all, in place for our safety, and at all times, please respect retail staff who will be asking you to shop in a slightly different way. There will be a more significant reopening of health services consistent with the NHS mobilisation plan. More GP services will be available and GP practices will make more visits to shielded patients. The health service more generally will resume more of the services which were regrettably postponed in March. As I said earlier, dentists will reopen from this Monday coming. In addition, optometry practices will reopen for emergency and essential services from Monday the 29th of June. We will also work with local authorities and others to resume some care services that were postponed, and more generally, public services will be gradually and safely reopening and scaling up. To take just 2 examples, energy efficiency schemes and visits to housing first tenants will start to resume. And public transport will operate increased services during this period, albeit with constraints on capacity due to the need for continued physical distance. One other change that was envisaged in the route map for phase 2 was the reopening of outdoor hospitality, such as beer gardens. Unfortunately, I am not able to give a date for that just yet. We may be able to set a date later that is within phase 2, but I have commissioned further advice from our scientific advisory group to inform this decision. There is emerging evidence that places like pubs, restaurants and gyms can be hotspots for transmission. So it's really important that we better understand this evidence and what further mitigation might be necessary to protect people in such spaces before we permit them to reopen. Now, I appreciate this will be hard for the hospitality industry, and I want to give an assurance to businesses in that sector that we will continue to support preparations for reopening, for example, by encouraging local authorities to facilitate the use of open outdoor spaces that pubs and restaurants can use for additional space. I expect to have this further scientific advice in 2 weeks, and I will set out then, hopefully on or around the 2nd of July, whether outdoor hospitality can reopen during phase 2, which I hope will be the case, or if further mitigations are required ahead of phase 3.